looking at Monday.
I'm off so I won't.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's very special webinar.
Oh, okay, then we'll just reconvene after 4.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for a very special webinar. This is going to be our last webinar before we start the new school year. So that's September. I'll give you more details on that later. This is out with the old, in with the new. We're still working on some technology things, so bear with me. I was telling the team here, and you guys are our team, that I'm not the greatest multitasker. Other people do it much better than I do, but I will try my best. We are got a great panel. We're really going out with a bang. We have the most panelists we've ever had for a best practices webinar, and that's saying a lot. We've been doing it now for 4 years. It's literally been 4 years, April. The focus is out with the old, in with the new. That's school year. We're going to go around the panel. They're going to discuss some of their best practices of what they do to close out the year, what they do to start the new year. Today, by the way, is the official first day of June. So happy June, everybody. Happy summer. What did I say? Today's the first day of June. That's what I meant. I mean, first day of summer. I'm losing my mind. I'm sorry. I'm going to count to 10 by twos. If you are on, I'd like to see how many of you who are on. We want this to be very interactive, and that means that we want to hear from you throughout the webinar. And if you have thoughts that work for you, if you have a question either for all the panelists or some of the panelists, you can just identify that. If you have a tip that's worked for you, I am monitoring this. Again, I'm not the greatest multitasker, but I will do my best to get to your questions and to get to your insights. What I'd like to do, just to see who's in here, is, are you done with school yet? So we have people from across the country who come onto these, just like we have people from across the country who are our panelists today: Oklahoma, Texas, New York. So if you're done with school, say done with school, or out for the summer now, whatever you want to say, and tell me where you're at, what state you're in, and just start punching that in, and I'll look at these and give some shout outs as well. My name is Rick DeRico. I'm the Director of Public Relations at Transfinder, and the goal of these have always been and will always be to, okay, I'm already getting some of these in. New Jersey, they're done Tuesday. Missouri, done May 21st, and Virginia. Wow, okay, Washington, wow, a lot of people on here. Wentzville, Missouri. Arizona's been out for quite some time. Wyoming, done May 23rd. Wow, okay, there's a lot here. Thank you very much. Just so I know that I'm not talking to myself here, as I've been told that I do that a lot. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to talk about, again, what people do to close up their years, some of the things, maybe some lessons learned that did not work. And so we want to always have transparency as much as we can. We tried this, it didn't work, so we didn't do that. At the end of the day, and then we do record these. So if you like something you heard, or you want to replay something, it will be on our YouTube channel, which you can find at transfinder.com. At the very top of the page, there's a YouTube icon there, and you can log in there and see that. I think we just had somebody else join us. Am I right? Maybe not. Okay. So without further ado, can you guys see my next slide here? This is my welcome. Okay, so you already got that. Unfortunately, Tony could not join us, our President and CEO, Antonio Civitella. He's actually at a trade show today, so I know he's quite busy. Maybe he's meeting some folks in your own departments today. He loves to get out and meet with clients and future clients, as we call them. At the end of the day, this is what we all strive for. We call it the peace plan. We did this about 3 years ago, and it never really goes away. It's planning. You guys spend so much time building the best routes, making sure your buses are safe, and all those things. And so how much planning goes into that? Then you got to execute that plan. You spend so much time on the plan, you got to execute it. You can't have it on a PDF and not be seen. Then there's accountability. How do you hold people accountable to make sure they're executing the plan as you guys have it? Sarah, I hope you can hear us now. Please let me know. Everybody can hear me okay? Okay. Then you're communicating the plan. So everybody needs to know, like, who needs to do what. Maybe you let your community know as well. Hey, we have some new stops. Hey, we have, we have some changes. We have a new app, a parent app, or something like that. So you got to communicate that. Then you examine the plan. Maybe it's at the end of, when you have the after your school opening. How did that go? I don't know if some people do postmortems, to see how that went and what worked, what didn't work, and what changes you need to make. And then you make adjustments, and then that cycle starts again. So that's just a quick thought about, at the end of the day, we all want to have that peace of mind. We want to give our parents peace of mind. I know Transfinder cares a lot about our clients, and we want to give you peace of mind that everything is working properly. Okay, I'm not seeing my slide move forward. Hopefully this will work. Here we go. And here are our panelists. I'm going to introduce them by name, and then we're going to have them talk a little bit about their districts and their career paths. So we have Greg Bingham with Alvin ISD in Texas, Danielle Fair in Tomball ISD, also Texas. Texas, by the way, does get the lion's share of today's webinar. Andrew Grasty in Tennessee. Jay Hunt is with Lawton Public Schools in Oklahoma. Gene Mcwhorter, hopefully we're going to get him on here. I know he is going to be logging in later. He's with Pflugerville ISD in Texas as well. Laura Renno is in Danville, Pennsylvania. And Heather Williams is not far from where Transfinder is based, in Rensselaer City School District in New York. Again, I'm Rick DeRico, Director of Public Relations, and my goal is always about trying to get more and more stories out there, what people do and what works for them. Okay, I'm going to just do one quick check before. Well, actually, why don't we just start? Go around the room, so to speak. Greg, can you just start us off a little bit about your career path, just briefly, since we got so many panelists, and tell us a little bit about your district. I'm sorry, Greg is not on with us yet. Andrew, we'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about your district, your career path.
Hey, Rick. Good morning. This is Andrew Grasty, Sumner County Schools, Tennessee. All the folks viewing this, Sumner County Schools, Tennessee is sandwiched in between the northern border of Tennessee-Kentucky state line and Metro Nashville Public Schools along I-65. So we're about 20 minutes from downtown Nashville, one of the suburbs, the counties. A little bit about myself. I've been in my role for a little over a decade. Worked in a couple of school districts. I'm born and raised in Tennessee, but moved to Ohio after college, and for 10 years I was transportation director in a couple of school districts. So anybody that's viewing there from Ohio, hello Ohio friends. I was in Greenville City Schools and Centerville City Schools and Vandalia Butler Schools, inching my way up each time from bus routes. We only had 30 buses on the road to 120 buses on the road in Centerville. To now we're a countywide program here in Tennessee. So we have 237 buses with about 700 routes in the system. I've worked on various softwares, mostly Transfinder. So a little bit about us is we were on a different software, but just came on board with Transfinder, Route Finder Plus. And we came on in April, loaded 700 routes in there with the great support of Transfinder and their team. So we not only are wrapping up a school year, but we're also starting a brand new school year in Plus. So we're excited about that. And I can talk a little bit about that later. But I just finished 3 weeks ago. We had the Tennessee Association for People Transportation Conference, where I was the president for this past year. My wife and I have 7 kids total. Half of them are foster kids. One adopted. My wife's an elementary school teacher. So loving kids and taking care of them is kind of in our blood. And the yellow bus is something that I love. So happy to be here to present some ideas. And I can't forego, Rick, I got to call you on this because we said this is a conversation. Everybody's listening. What the viewers didn't know, we said we're going to try to have a golden nugget, and you'll hear that later. I think the best thing for this best practices, if you didn't know already, you got to join this today. He said at the beginning, it's only the first day of June. So you actually earned 20 extra days to get your routing stuff done. So that's the golden nugget from today's webinar. You heard it now. It's the first day of June. So you can wipe all your fears away. You got plenty of time to get all your routes done. You got 20 extra days. So I'm just kidding. It was great. That was great.
I wish I could. There we go. Thank you very much. We're going to go down to Laura. Laura, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and also your district.
So Laura Renno from Danville, Pennsylvania. Our district is about 2,200 students, roughly. Well, first I started out as a bus driver, mom, young kids, want to be on the schedule. Did that for about 10 years, got into the school district kind of as the registrar, bus backup. And then a year later, moved my way into director of transportation. And I've been doing this now. I think I've been the longest one here at our school district for about 10 years. Grew up in Danville, born and raised. I'm going to die here, one of those. But that's what kind of makes me good in Danville, is because I know the area. But yeah, we have about 50 single routes, looking at maybe a long range planning, maybe to adjust to do something different, K to 12, 2-tier in the next couple years. So we're kind of in the beginning stages of that. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Danielle, welcome. How are you?
Good morning. My
Good morning.
name is Danielle Fair, and I'm a routing supervisor here at Tomball ISD. Our district has about 23,000 students. I've been in the routing department for about 9 years, and I've been the supervisor for about 2 years now. I started my career in Gwinnett County Public Schools, which is north of Atlanta, one of the largest school districts in Georgia. I love what I do. I love Transfinder. We are right now wrapping up summer school, getting ready to start our new school year. I have a wonderful team with about 3 new routers who are excited and ready to learn. So we're just collaborating, and I'm excited to hear what everyone has to share.
That's great. Thanks so much. And Heather, my neighbor.
Hi, good morning. I'm Heather. I'm from Rensselaer City School District. We are very small. We only have about 1,100 students, 1,100 students. Our biggest challenge is the special needs and getting them transported out of district to their schools. We do have a lot of walkers, so not a lot of in-district routing and buses, but a lot of the out-of-district special needs program. This is my first full year here with the district, so I'm really excited. We have tried some things that did work and didn't work so far. But yeah, that's, I'm excited to be here and learn new things.
Thanks so much. One of the things that I've heard over and over again is that even some of the panelists have said, I learned stuff myself. I mean, maybe we did yesterday during the dry run. I don't know if anybody grabbed anything there. So, and then last but not least for now, Jay, I'm going to keep monitoring here to see if anybody else is logging in. Gene's told me that he is trying to get on, so we'll hopefully get him on. But Jay, tell us a little bit about yourself and your district.
Okay. Our district here in Oklahoma, we come from a military type town. We share our school district with Fort Sill, Oklahoma. We transport around 5,500 to 6,000 students daily. That's from all the way down to your pre-K up to your high school kids, even some other students that have graduated high school that are in special needs transition programs. We help transport some of those students as well. My career path, I didn't plan on becoming an professional in the transportation industry, but I got out of college and went into recreation and sports fitness and management, and I did that for several years. But having children and being gone till 8 or 9 o'clock at night for athletic sporting events didn't really play out well for a family guy. So I tried to I migrated over into transportation with our local school district here in town. I've lived here in the Lawton, Oklahoma area my whole life, except for when I was a small infant. Took over a job with our transportation department as just kind of a supervisor for drivers and the bus monitors underneath our director. I did that for about 2 school years, and then the director position came open in the year of the pandemic. And so I officially became the director of our school district in 2020. And then I've been in that position now for almost, well, I guess be 4 years this summer. But we try to just kind of what everybody else was saying, just making sure that we are closing things down for the year. We ended school back in May, probably earlier than everybody else. Probably around May 15th was our last day, and then we've been on summer break, and then we started our summer school activities right there at the very last week of May, and we've been going with that, and we'll finish up here next week with a lot of it, and still got one program we support in July for high school students. It's a federal program, a grant that we got. So we try to help get those kids to the respective high schools for that. But most of our routes are in town. We don't, once you get outside the rural areas of Lawton, it gets into other smaller school districts. And so we just have a couple of what I call rural routes that go out on the dirt roads and pick up kids out in that area. But mostly we are gen ed and sped, and that's our biggest struggle right now is making sure we have enough drivers to pick up all the special needs students for all the 3 tiers of routes that we run for elementary, middle, and high school. So that's a little bit about Lawton Public Schools here in
That's
Oklahoma.
great. Thank you very much. I saw Greg just popped on, so hopefully he'll be joining us shortly. And when he does, I'll have him tell a little bit about himself. Laura, I'm going to start a little bit. Yesterday we talked, I kicked it off, and you went into pretty good details here, and I think everybody kind of related. Closing out the year, and some of the things you do in advance, and I'm not even going to tell you what you said because you know what you said. Tell us how you wrap up your year and get ready for the next school year.
Sure. I'm not sure exactly if I remember exactly what I said, but I'll give it a go.
Had something to do with reports.
Yes. Yeah. So I typically, at the end of the year, I start running reports for our Pennsylvania, our PDE 1049, which I'm sure every state is different with their state reporting, but I'll run a report for my non-pubs that I transport, my hazardous kids that are hazardous, but we still transport. And so I just get those numbers around our student enrollment. So that way, when the reporting opens in late July, when everyone is swamped, I already have that information done. So I can just pull that out and be ready to do that. One of the other things that I do, which I have found helpful and I do share, is throughout the year, you have parents call, you have routes or drivers or whatever, and they're like, oh, next year I want to do this. Next year, can my route go here? Or, oh, my kids are going to go to grandparents here or whatnot. So how are you going to remember all of that stuff? So I start a folder for the next. So right now I have a folder for 24-25. And so as the year goes on, I just take those tidbits, sticky notes, forms or whatever, and I just stick in that folder, and it just sits there until I'm ready to look at my 24-25 school year. And then I pull that out, and then I can remember, oh, that's right. In December, this parent called and wanted me to put their kids at the grandparents or what. So I just have those little tidbits of notes, because there's no way that you're going to remember all the information that comes in through the year to get ready for the 24-25 school year.
That's great. That's great. And when you're doing that, so that's helping you to, you're making sure that the right kids, you're already starting to plan according to what kids are on the buses.
Yes. So I will also, if there's something like we have exceptions or kids that may ride more than one bus, then I will also print a report there. So that way I can look at that for next year and have those kids already have the double bus for, parents. There's just tidbits, and the longer you do it, you get to know maybe some of the pitfalls that happen at the beginning of the year, because everyone knows the first week is just like chaos. And so I've noticed as each year goes on, the more I do this, I am aware of the pitfalls that have happened from previous years. So I look for those, and then it makes our beginning of year mean, we only have 2 days of craziness instead of a week of craziness.
That's great. That's awesome. Before Andrew, I'm going to go to you next, but Greg, I do want you to introduce yourself. Thanks so much for not giving up. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your district, your, maybe a little bit of the scope size of your district, and then we'll go to you, Andrew.
Sure. I apologize for
No
being
problem.
late. It's having a little bit of trouble getting on. My name is Greg Bingham. I'm Director of Transportation in Alvin ISD. We are south of Houston, about half an hour south of Houston, and we are we're an interesting district. We're about 250 square miles, and we're extremely growing. But it's a combination of rural and urban area. And so we have about 30,000 students. We opened our 4th high school a couple of years ago, so we're growing like most everywhere in Texas. We run 150 routes, and we average about 10 to 12,000 students on a bus a day. So we are a large transportation district. And we're battling all the same things you guys are, but we're doing well, and we make it work just like you. But I didn't know if there's any specific questions you have, Rick, but just let me know. I'm here to help.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Promise. Andrew, tell me a little bit about your approach. You're wrapping up the year, starting a new year, and I know that all of you run reports, and you kind of piggybacked on that. And then tell us a little bit about something that's unique for your district.
Sure. Rick, no matter the size of the folks, the district that the folks are viewing from, it's always helpful to being ready to wrap up the year and looking ahead of the next one is just what your staffing looks like. When I was born and raised here in Middle Tennessee, moved to Ohio for 10 years, and then had the opportunity to come back here to Tennessee to run the transportation department in Sumner County 3 years ago. And we were not at the market rate for our wages. I mean, we always want to help pay our bus drivers more across the country. That's obviously a thing. And so we needed that help a lot. And so, I went and advocated for that with our school board, and the Department of Ed here in Tennessee helped run reports for similar sized districts and helped me get some factual data of similar sized districts to help with our recruiting. And so I'd recommend anybody that needs maybe that help to reach out to their Department of Ed, maybe that they can help them look at the wage rates for bus drivers. We were severely low, and you may have seen in other articles, we actually talked about it about 3 years ago. When I came here, we have 237 buses on the road every day. By the end of my first year here, we were short over 54 drivers. It was a crisis, and I will say, and I'm happy to say now because we've done something about it. But it's unfortunate. Here in Memphis, we were paying $12 an hour for bus drivers, for CDL bus drivers, and that was obviously a problem competing with all the charter companies and professional drivers in Nashville. And so we were able to advocate for our drivers and staffing and recruiting and looking at what we needed. We moved up to $18 an hour. This year we're at $19 an hour. Next year it's going to be over 20. And we were able to attract and bring in maybe plus or minus 30 drivers. But with retiring, and that's where I'm getting with this, is we made a lot of traction in the last 3 years, but then we had a lot of retirees this year. So something my team does as a best practice is looks at where we are for the next school year. I know a lot of you probably do that, but we set up our county is separated into 4 areas. So each area has its own transportation supervisor and a routing coordinator and operations manager that comes in. And we sit down and we look at, okay, we ended the year with X amount of buses off the road that we already combined. And then now we had 17 drivers retire. We have 8 in training. We're going to start August without 9 bus drivers. So what are we going to do about that? So we talk about that, talk about areas where we can be more efficient. Obviously, I told you earlier that we went live in April on Route Finder Plus. So that helped us a lot, and it's going to help us a lot more come August. I mean, I will say, take it where we have it, right, Rick, is as a plug, because the team has helped us at Transfinder to onboard, not only onboard, we had to put in 700, with their help, 700 routes, individual routing segments, because some buses are K-12 routes, some have 4 routes they do in a day, depending on what part of the county, because we're countywide transportation. So we have local city routes that they go to 4 different schools, or a K-12 route where they go to 1 out in the country, rural route. So with the efficiencies and things we're looking at, but that's what we do. We get together and look, okay, we have 9 openings coming August, so what are we going to do about that? So just kind of putting our thinking cap on. And
do you also, you guys look at things like consolidating runs when you can, consolidating stops even, tiers and all that kind of, bell time.
That's exactly right. Not only, and it's just a neat perspective. I'm sure a lot of you, Rick, I'm looking right now, we have like, what, over 100 people on this webinar. So I'm sure there's multiple people going, Andrew, we do the same thing. But, right now, with our school district, we have around 31,000 students. Our southern part of our county is the border for Metro Nashville. And so everybody's moving to Nashville, and we're the suburb where all the new neighborhoods are being built. We have 20,000 homes being built in our county right now across the county. And so it's absolutely crazy that are in the pipeline. So with growth and routes, we have 2 new school buildings opening up this year, a new middle school on one side of the county, new elementary on the other side of the county. So we're looking at bell times and where we can use those buses and our routing efficiencies with plus the help of scheduling all that, getting together to see, okay, we have 9 empty buses. Where can we consolidate that until we get new people trained?
Outstanding. I'm going to turn now to Danielle. Danielle, tell me a little bit about how you wrap up your year, what you do to get ready for the fall, maybe even your experience with summer school.
Okay, so like Laura, I end the year out by doing my reports and getting ready for summer school. But I've found that reaching out to the principals and some of the program directors and getting in on some of those meetings and picking their brains, because they're usually planning for the new school year in the spring. So developing those relationships so that they think about transportation when they start to come up with these ideas. We have a lot of CTE programs that we provide transportation for, so getting in on those meetings are very beneficial because they may think that we can transport students to a college campus at 7:30 in the morning, when in actuality we cannot do that. Is there something else that we can come up with? So getting in on those meetings are very beneficial, I've found. It's helped us a lot when it comes to summer school. When I first started this position, we routed for each individual student that was attending summer school. Well, the thing with that is those test scores do not become available until the last minute. I'm saying like the night before summer school starts.
Wow.
So what I've done is I've asked, well, can we do, like modified stops? And I called some neighboring districts to see how they handle it. And that's one thing that has helped expedite our summer school process. So just reaching out and building relationships and getting in on some of these meetings, I found has been very, very, very beneficial for me and my role.
One of the things that I'm seeing already a theme, even though there's different aspects that you guys have touched upon, is number one, there's no room to bury your head in the sand and hope it goes away. Number one, it's like we see things are coming. We either have new buildings going up, or new communities popping up, or shortage of drivers, those kind of things. So becoming strategically like, okay, how do we adjust for that? But then also, I like what you just said, Danielle, that you can reach out to a neighboring district, and even if they're not using the same software or solutions, they have insights on does everybody on this call, people who are listening as well, we want you to be a part of this. Do you reach out to your neighboring districts to see, either for help, advice, or any other kind of assistance? Is there a camaraderie there? So I'm going to throw that out there. I'm going to go to you now, Jay. Tell me a little bit about you. And
I want to say there was one thing that Laura mentioned, how she prepares and keeping track of her exceptions and things like that, and students that have duplicate buses. I used to keep track of that the same way you did, Laura. And what we started doing this year was keeping a sheet, like an Excel sheet, and documenting all of the addresses and things like that, so that we didn't lose track of those paperworks. And then also what we're going to do, we've discussed, is during our open house, which usually happens after open enrollment, we're going to have a QR code that we hope can link back to forms. And so those students that live in those rural areas that don't have bus information, or are going to be going to dad's house or grandma's house, they can use that, and that information goes back, instead of us receiving hundreds and hundreds of slips of paper to come back. So maybe that's something that might.
And I got to give a shameless plug for Form Finder, which is embedded in Plus for free.
Yeah,
so
that's what I want to use.
That's right. Before we go to you, Jay, I got a couple questions I do want to get to, because I always promise I will do that. And by the way, Lugina, I hope I said your name right. you do reach out to districts. That's awesome to hear. So the question was, and anybody can answer this, or feel free to jump in. What reports are you running? And are these reports from Route Finder, or is it from the student information system? Anybody?
Well,
Laura mentioned about a dozen reports yesterday.
And maybe I don't run the right report. What I do is I sort in my student grid by like all my non-pubs, and then I just run a report, whether it's student schedule. I can't say what specific reports, just so I have everybody's name there, and that, so I sort my data first in the student grid, and then I run a report from there, just so I have it in just a report form. So there's you can run the report many different ways, however you, student schedule, student contact, however you just choose to run that, how to gather that information.
Good. Jay, gonna get to you. I know I can't believe how quickly the time's already flying, so I want to make sure I get everybody here, at least on talking a little bit about their ideas here. Jay, tell me a little bit about you wrapping up the year, starting a year, new school year.
So we always try to wrap up the end of the school year with a big cookout. Everybody, all my mechanics in the shop, they love to bring out the big grills, and I usually use some of our activity fund money to buy a bunch of food, and then there'll be other individuals that work in our department. We have about a department about 120. That's drivers, monitors, mechanics, office staff, all that good stuff. Anyways, we try to finish out the year doing that. We try to have a fun filled, just get. I've got one employee. He does it. He has a DJ service, and so he'll bring a lot of his DJ equipment up to the bus yard and get some good music playing. And everybody, we set up about 7 or 8 different wash stations so everybody can get their bus cleaned up before they turn it in at the end of the year. And that's kind of how we finish out the year. And then I don't know about y'all, but usually after that last day of school, we finish that. Everybody just kind of goes into like a chill mode for about 3 or 4 days, where we're just kind of letting our brains decompress, and we kind of start putting together our plans for where we're going to go for the next school year. For our district, we are adding another pre-K program, and that's a change that we're looking at right now, trying to figure out how to get those students. The way we've done it for our other programs is, we will pick up those students from their on our buses that go to the elementary schools, and then we just have to identify which students stay on the bus, which students are the pre-K students. And after we make that stop at the elementary school for all the kindergartners and up to 5th graders, we keep the preschool on us, and they make an extra run over to the pre-K center and drop them off for the mornings. And then we kind of do the same in the afternoons, pick them up, and then go get our the rest of the grades and take them home. So as far as reports go, we try to use a lot of the reports. I will say, me being the director, I don't do any routing and Route Finder Plus. I use Viewfinder a lot to try to look at information, what I need. I've got about 4 licensed people in our department that do all the routing. We do have an IT professional that works over in our department that I had to convince our school district to let me have an IT person over. His office is in our transportation building, and he helps me keep anything IT related, whether it be surveillance cameras on the buses, or GPS, or just anything imaginable that you can think of that relates to IT. He's over there. He's really good at running reports and helping me set up that stuff. And so that's kind of what we do. I know that's not probably the greatest answer in the world, but
that's good.
We try to really focus on, what our changes are, what changes we're going to have to make in our routing schemes. And then I kind of tell all my folks that do all the routing, I'm like, okay, well, let's get it done and make it happen. And we always do. I've got a really good office staff of 5 office staff. Each one of them has their own little specific area of focus, whether it be finances or routing or special needs or HR. So we all work together to get the job done.
That's good. That's good. Very good. And I like the idea of having cookouts and just those celebratory things, you know, because that is what builds camaraderie. And, you know, they're going to be the ones that are going to go out and promote working for you, you know, working for your district. William in Pennsylvania talked about, depending on what data I need for my PA reports, I have a lot of saved filters and layouts that I can run on the last day of school. So we hear a lot about that too, these saved filters. So this, I want to make sure I share that. And Elizabeth in Clarksville, Tennessee, said that she meets with their leaders for lunch once or twice a year just to bounce ideas off each other. So I think that's neighboring districts there. Heather, tell me a little bit about your approach. You're very unique because you spend a lot of time on special needs students.
We do. We spend a lot of time with the special needs students, and I have a really great relationship with the head of our CFE chair. So she typically starts her end of year reviews for each student in April, and she'll set up a spreadsheet in April, which then she gives me access to. And as it's being updated, I can get in there, see where they're going for summer school, where they're going for the next school year, and actually get that late. My special needs routes for summer school have been done for a month, which, because of the way that she works with me, it really does just help out, take that stress off. I'm not running around. We still have 4 days of school left here, so we're not out until Tuesday, but then our ESY program starts on the 3rd. So we literally have days to do everything that we need to do before summer school starts. And just that relationship with her really, really helps out, because that is one less stressor that we have. And for our district, it's just me routing. So I am the supervisor and the router and answer the phones. And so it really does just help out having that open communication with the principals also. If they have a change, they reach out to me right away. And I just wanted to comment on Laura's folder of all next year's changes. I actually set up a questionnaire form that the parents have. We have it right on our website. The parents can go there, fill out the information. It goes directly to a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet never goes away. So all that information, even closing out the school year, I can look back and say, okay, well, I know, and I haven't gotten a new one. Maybe I should reach out to this parent. So that's, you know, something else to consider too. The IT department did a really great job just posting it. We have like an alternate address form and does your child need the bus form. That's just some things that we've set up that really did work well for us.
That's good. You knew you were going to hear about it when you mentioned Post-it notes, Laura, right? I have colleagues that have Post-it notes all around their monitors. I think they have to have a couple other monitors just to the Post-it.
Oh, I have Post-it notes everywhere. And I will say we're a smaller school district, so I don't have as many changes as you all. And our special ed department does a lot with special ed, and I meet with them every August to go over every single kid one by one in their transportation and things like that. So it's just, I probably don't have as much stuff as what you all have, but it's still just nice. I can pull that out and remember, oh, my conversation with the parent, about this or that. So yes, yeah, thank you.
Greg, last but not least, tell me a little bit about your strategy as you close out the year and as you start a new year. What do you do?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know if it's a strategy, but you know, we really focus on, you know, like Jay was talking about, we focus on our drivers and our monitors, and on celebrating their successes and all the good things. We celebrate safety awards, we celebrate attendance awards, and all those different things. And then we really try to focus on feedback from the year. What can we do better? We really are trying to become more customer service oriented, and so we service we survey our drivers, we get feedback from them on specific issues. And you know, I've been here 5 years, and there's always been kind of a divide between management and drivers. And so we're really trying to bridge that gap, and so really getting our drivers involved and getting their input and their feedback, having them involved in different decision-making processes that we do over the summer. And then we get feedback from our administrators as well, and we survey them, and we, you know, find out, you know, what can improve on, what we're doing well, and so we really try to get as much feedback as we can from all of our stakeholders, and then that kind of drives our summer planning, and then that drives our summer in-service as we prepare for the new year. So that's kind of what we do in preparation for or in ending the year and preparing for the next year.
You said something yesterday, because I said, you know, feedback can be kind of touchy, right? You know, people, you know, when they have a platform to complain a little bit or whatever. And you said, if you want to cultivate, this is a quote from you, if you want to, you know, cultivate that type of, you know, culture, that you can't take it personally. You had to kind of get a little bit of a thick skin.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said too, is, you know, I wasn't always that way. You know, I've been where, you know, that where I have taken things personal, and it just kind of is, I guess it comes with age and it comes with experience, but, you know, you really want to get people's feedback, because, you know, their perception is their reality, but at the same time, you have to take into account all of those things, because we really want to improve our service, because we are a service, right? The goal is taking care of students, and so we kind of get away from that at times, and so really want to focus on what the ultimate goal is, and that's getting our students to school safely. So
can you think of something you did as a result of the feedback you got? Does anything come to mind? I didn't ask you this yesterday, but I was thinking of as you were just talking, that you could implement. A driver said something like, I needed, you know, I think we should take this street instead of this street, or we need something in the workroom, or something that you can think of that you changed as a result of the feedback?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. You know, we are a large district, so we have a large group of drivers. We have over 200 drivers, and so, you know, you really want to have that family atmosphere, and it's easy to kind of get away from when you have so many people. But, you know, we did, you know, listening to drivers, we did kind of come up with what we call a climate committee. And so, you know, we still battle life's issues. We lose family members. We, you know, battle illnesses and those type of things. And so our climate committee really, you know, helps out in those issues, you know, lets people know they care, sends cards, sends flowers. You know, we even go to people's houses and, you know, check on them. So, you know, that was something that came from feedback from drivers, and something I've done in other places as well. So just things like that, really just take care of your people, you know, and make sure, you know, one thing too is like when there's an accident, you know, per se, and you get on dispatch, you're on the radio, and your first question is, you know, what happened, and all that. You know, you know, our first question we went to is, how are you? You know, how are you, before we go into all those other things, you know, to let them know, hey, we care about you. You know, just little things like that. And it goes a long way.
There's a colleague of mine who I used to text him sometimes when I was in the middle of something. So I was really transactional. So I would say, did you do this or whatever? And he would always get back to me and say, good morning, Rick.
Yeah.
And then he would say what he said. And he never said anything. He never complained to me. But I also go, I need to back up my text before like delete. Good morning, so-and-so. How are you? Hey, did you do whatever? You know what I mean? Just that little bit has that softer kind of approach.
Yeah, because there's so many things that are outside of our control. You know, Andrew talked about raising pay for drivers and all the things we advocate for, and sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't. But you know, things you can control is your culture and your climate, and so
that's good.
I'm not saying it's perfect, right? We battle the same issues as everybody else, but really trying to improve those things will help you retain drivers, and it goes a long way with other districts. They hear about, hey, well, I'd rather go to Alvin instead of, this district right here, I'll drive 30 minutes to go to Alvin instead of the district that's right next to me.
That's good.
So those are things that we try to focus on. So.
Very good. I got a question here from Christina, who asked, do you find, this is open to anybody, do you find it best practice to remove all additional requirements to all students at the beginning of each year? Does that make sense as a question? And if so, does anybody want to tackle that?
So I usually do when I am starting the new year routing. I remove all the extra requirements because I have that spreadsheet. Then I'll go in and add in what is on the spreadsheet for that coming up year. That's the way I do it.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
We've done it both ways. So last year we removed everything and started from scratch, but this year we're going to just update those exceptions and schedules using the spreadsheet.
Anybody else? Okay. And Lugina again had a note here that said we use Google Forms that we've been using. Now that makes Tony, my CEO, cringe, but I'm just going to read it because that's what she wrote. Form Finder, folks, it's in your system. If you're a Transfinder client, we've been using for 3 years now for our transportation plan form that's required to be filled out if a student is needing transportation to and from school. This was and is a game changer. It's on our webpage in many areas, and it's sent out throughout the school through school messenger database throughout the summer with a deadline date, 60 days, 45 days, 30 days, 10 days. We have already received more than half. No more paper forms, woohoo. So I want to make sure I get that in there. Sherry also mentioned they remove all requirements, and our parents have to opt in for all transportation. Tammy says exceptions need to be requested every year here. And Lugina says, I know, Lugina's apologizing for not using Form. Very good. All right. So I can't believe we're already at 12:21. We talked a little bit about technology. Some of you are instituting Stop Finder, and that's our parent app, and Wayfinder, which is the driver app, or any other technology. Just like to get your sense of your approach to that too, right? Some of you, and it could be about technology, introducing new technology, but also several of you talked about, not trying to make too many changes that are going to throw off your drivers, especially, in terms of bus routes, that if there's been a bus route that's always been there, and as long as it's still functional, be mindful that little changes can really throw people off. But anybody want to address the idea of specifically implementing some specific change like technology and how you did it to make it as seamless as possible? Go ahead, Jay.
So this year we've added some software to help us just manage all the incidents that come through the office. I don't want to say I got tired of, but I ended up with random notes on my desk, on sticky notes, whatever, and I'd have to try to figure out, okay, who gave me this, who did it come from, and so we've kind of we invested in some software from a company, and it's basically incident management. You put in, even if there's an important phone call that needs to be addressed by either myself or one of my supervisors, it just kind of gives us a way to go back and track that and say, hey, was this completed? Everybody that uses it, they can either submit tickets, they can, if it's submitted to me, then I can follow up on it. If it's one of my two supervisors underneath me that need to call a parent back, if it's a principal that needs some video footage from a bus, from an incident that happened on one of the buses that feeds into their school, it's just basically a way to keep track of everything that happens, and everybody that answers a phone in our office can access it, list it in there, and then everybody that needs to look at it can go in and look at it. So that's a way we've kind of we're going that direction for technology this year, and I'm hoping that that will help us stay a little bit more organized and not let things slip through the cracks, and or anything fall on deaf ears, so
Very
we
good.
don't miss it.
That's great.
We're
else?
implementing Wayfinder and Stop Finder this year, And so I just think it's important to really have an implementation plan, right? You can't just come in and just throw everything in at one time, you know. So for us, for example, you know, being a larger district, we're really starting with our elementary students with our IDs, our RFIDs in the scanning process, and then we will cycle up throughout the district. But there's so many things you can do, but it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to. And you need to focus on whatever your goal is for the technology. All right, those are the things you really want to focus on, and then you can kind of bring some of those other features in it, because there's so many great features in Stop Finder and in Wayfinder, but you can't do it all, right? So or maybe you can, I can't, but just really having a good plan for how you're going to implement things, I think is important.
Gene mentioned yesterday, unfortunately he's not here, and you guys can correct me if I say don't quite capture it, but he talked about using Form Finder. He talked about there's a bunch of trailer parks in his area where there are like thousands, I think he said like thousands of, this is Pflugerville, Texas, so it's a big area, and it doesn't pinpoint on the map, you know, initially. So he'll send them through Form Finder, and the ability for them to basically pin their specific home in the software. Does that make sense? So, someone else explain that better than me. I'm sure anybody can explain that better than me. Anyone remember what he said? Oh my goodness, you guys are making me.
That's what he said. That he was going to send out a form and have the parents actually geocode their lot numbers, because when you're dealing with a mobile home, it gives you the one parcel, but he wants them to be geocoded to their particular lot. So that's what he's wanting to do.
Thank you. You saved me, Danielle. Yeah, I owe you. So opening it up, we got about 5 minutes here. Just things that you want to make sure. Again, we talk about this all the time. Many of you said you've attended these webinars in the past. What would you want to know leaving here, or what would you want an attendee to either bring back to their team or bring back to their superintendent or their school board? What's one tip, or not about planning for the future, but just one thing that you would want them to make sure they take away when they're planning for, I guess it is a tip, for next year? I'm just going to go around the room. I'm looking, I'll call on you. I'm going to start with you, Andrew, because you're front and center on my screen. Go to Laura, Jay, Greg, Danielle, and Heather. So what's one takeaway, Andrew? I can't hear you. Sorry. I'll come back to you. Laura, what's one takeaway?
I'm sitting here racking my brain. What's one takeaway? I guess I'll just say what I like is, you know what? I don't know. I know, which you would think I would have multiple. There's just so many things running through my head. Come back to me.
I'm going to come back to you too, because you know what? My wife always says, Rick, and this is when I taught Sunday school, whatever, she's like, you always put people on the spot, and not everybody can just think of something at the last, give them a break.
Me? Yes,
So,
that's me.
So I'm sorry, if my wife, she's in the next room, but if she were here, she would be like,
thank you.
knock it off, all right. So my apologies.
It's okay.
Jay?
I would say one takeaway is make sure you have a good working relationship with all the other administrators in the district. I know sometimes transportation departments are kind of put on the, I don't know how you say it. They're there, but they're not really like considered, the as important as the educational pieces that a school does. Considering, yes, kids do go to school to get education, but I always tell people, I said they wouldn't be in class for you to educate them if we didn't transport them there to the school. So
That's a fact.
I always make sure I have a good working relationship with the other administrators in the district. I actually go to the back to school meetings for all the secondary and elementary principals. I make sure I contact our executive director of elementary education, as well as our executive director of secondary education, and they always include me in all their principal meetings, and they allow me to come over and have a 20 or 30-minute question and answer session with all of them. That way, if there's any questions pertaining to transportation for anybody's school, we can address it right there and get it lined out before the school starts.
That sends a very loud message being there. That's awesome. Greg.
Yeah, I think somebody kind of touched on it earlier, but you know, just know that you're not alone, and you know, develop relationships with other people in your positions and other districts. I mean, get involved in an organization and develop those relationships with other directors and other routers and things like that, because you know, their knowledge is so important as well, and you just really learn a lot from other people. So I would say just know that you're not alone, and don't feel bad about reaching out and asking for help, because we're all in the same boat.
That's very good. Danielle.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was jumping in. I'll step aside.
No, go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say I do that a lot, being that I'm on our state board for our Oklahoma Association for Pupil Transportation. So I have a lot of our smaller school districts around me that reach out to me to ask me what the latest from the State Department is, or anything like that, just because I try to stay in the know on that area. And we're kind of the biggest school district until you get up to the Oklahoma City metro area in our southwest part of the state of Oklahoma. So like Andrew like Andrew was saying, out in Tennessee, it's good to know a lot of the other directors around the state and have those links and those people that you reach out to and answer questions.
Very good. Danielle.
I'm just going to piggyback on Jay and Greg. Develop those relationships, network, not only with other transportation departments, but within your district, you know, principals, the people that are working the bus lanes, these leaders that are wanting to implement new programs, things of that nature, because a lot of times it sounds good until they talk to transportation. So work on those relationships, and don't be afraid. You're not alone. We're everywhere.
That's awesome. Be visible too. Heather.
Well, it's really going on with what everybody's saying. Communication is key. Really, if you have that open line of communication with your schools, your administrators, that's what's going to make it the easiest to do your job. And again, like we have an email chain up here through Questar, and all of the supervisors and directors of transportation, just randomly, if we have a question, we'll send it out to that email chain, and usually somebody has an answer or has a way of helping you figure out what you need to do.
Very good. Andrew, you back on? I don't hear you. Oh no. Laura, you've had some time?
Okay. So I will echo what everyone else is saying about communication and building relationships. The more things that you can iron out during the summer, whether meeting with your special ed and going over every special ed, you know, talking to your drivers if they want to make a route adjustment, have them run that route and then, you know, report back to you, because they are the face, they know the route, they run it every day. So the more you can communicate with driver, you know, departments, principals, and work out those tweaks and, you know, just situations, it makes then the start of the school year, not that you're gonna have bumps, everybody does, but it just helps smooth it out a little bit, and you can work through those bumps and tweaks quicker and make corrections faster to get to, you know, a smoother start.
That's great. It sounds like, you know, that lets them know you have an open door policy. Their feedback matters, which, you know, what Greg had talked about earlier as well. Andrew, last chance.
All right, I unmuted. Can you hear me?
You're on.
I restarted the webcam. I don't know what was up with that. I'm sorry about that. Every time I was hitting unmute, it wasn't unmuting. But, you know, it's kind of interesting. I was going to say this at the beginning, and then it kind of goes along with what everyone else has said, is with building the relationships, is I think it's important, whether you've been doing this 1 month or 15 years, all of us, is to be confident in any of the decisions you make, because sometimes you can be anxious. If you think about it, in the last 10 years where we were doing this, those of us that were doing this job 10 years ago, there's so much more technology, whether that be bus camera systems or I don't want to say, complaint or situation tracker logs like Jay was talking about. All the things that there are so many resources we have, especially the Transfinder products. I mean, there's so much going on, but be confident. We have in our department, and we're wrapping up. We have 5 routers. One's the routing coordinator and 4 routers, 1 router for each area. Our 30-year routing coordinators are retiring this year. We're bringing on Transfinder Plus. We have 4 other area routing routers, and 2 of them have been in here in less than a year. So they were like, "Are you kidding me? We're really going to change our routing software now." But I mean, with the support of the friends around us, and then just being confident we can make this change, and the new folks that were just destined to say we're not changing, absolutely love it. So I mean, just be confident, and I mean, we all help each other. So I think that's important to remember.
I think that's definitely a big takeaway here. Is we're all in this together, and reach out for help when you need it. Diana's going to say her takeaway is just finding whatever way it is to stay, that's going to help you stay organized. Organization is critical. So that's a good takeaway. If you have a story, we'd love to please share it with us. I may be asking you to be a panelist someday, but we're always looking to get as many stories as we can of best practices. And then last but not least, we're taking the summer off because we know none of you are taking the summer off. And so we're going to come back in September. And I know part of what we're going to be doing is bringing back we're going to bring the winners of the Top Transportation Teams Award. We haven't announced those yet, but we do know who they are. And so we'll be bringing some of those winners in to talk about how they were able to become a top transportation team. But without further ado, I just want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I want to thank all the attendees. And until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Rick.